Hey, it's me, Silver the Wag. How's it going? On this Sunday, I think it is Sunday, I woke up today. I'm not entirely sure what day it was. Yeah, things that happen in it. Yeah, I'll be upfront. I'm not feeling it. Sometimes I really am not, but since I've made this my kind of therapy replacement, I feel like I should do this and just come in here and ramble without being interrupted a lot because I still get interrupted. Yeah, since I don't live alone and there's no privacy or anything in here. Yeah. I got my coffee right here. It's still quite hot, so I might be able to have warm coffee to drink until the end of this video. I hope that your weekend was good. That if you had time off, that it was relaxing and nobody bothered you, basically. And if you had to work over the weekend and your off day is on a different day, I hope that day goes well and you get to relax on that day instead of... It's Frankie. I'm so glad that he's in a good mood and singing and stuff, because yeah, when we took care of the talents problem, my mum accidentally snipped too close to the place where the nail grows, and it bled a little, and I was horrified and scared, but I got a napkin and some rubbing alcohol and pressed it to it, and it's not bleeding anymore, and is happy and is walking around and stuff, and the cage is clean and stuff, so yeah, and is walking a lot better now. Good, but yeah, that was a scary moment, but still he is singing and is eating and is doing everything as usual. I cleaned up the wound, and it stopped bleeding right there and then, so I really think it won't get infected. You know, most people would just say it's just a canary bird, you can get another one that looks just like it, since they don't do much, and it's hard to train birds, like small birds. But I've had Frankie since 2017 and he's been with me through a lot. He was company. And yeah, I just, I hope it lasts forever. Forever is a long time, isn't it? But I've been checking his little foot to see if there's something wrong with it, but it seems to be fine. It seems to be, if there was an infection or something, I think it would already be showing some sorts of effect. And the thing is that I kept telling my mom, please don't snip too close to the foot itself, because that's what I'd read, and she did that anyway, and yeah, because obviously I couldn't be holding Frankie and snipping the nails, because the tendency is to do this, right? So there would have to be, it was a two-person job. One had to hold the poor little thing. I did that, and my mom cut the nails. Maybe it should have been the other way around. But it's just, my mom's hands are like a bit wider than mine. So, and I'm a bit more careful, if that makes sense. My hand is not smaller than hers, like in length, but it's spindly in a sense, like it's I don't know American measures, but it's 16 centimeters from the heel to the top of the middle finger. It's not a very, very big hand, like, I mean, I guess it's proportional compared to my feet. My feet are huge. So yeah, that's why I was the one holding the bird, because Frankie obviously doesn't like to be held, and I was just holding him very carefully without squeezing. I was just holding him, he had movement still. And yeah, my mom was just doing the nail clipping, and I messed up the one of the nails. I suppose that's not the end of the world. In fact, I did not check that, but I will do that. Yeah, I'm back. I just checked. Most people were talking about parakeets and cockatiels, or cockatails, or never heard that name pronounced. Mine is Frankie's a canary bird. And the bleeding stopped when I applied some pressure with the napkin and the rubbing alcohol. They were suggesting cornstarch, but I didn't even think of that, because at the moment I was just panicking and I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't get infected. So I just got my brother to go get a napkin and rubbing alcohol to ensure that it wouldn't get infected. I don't know if that was the correct course of action, but nobody was saying don't do that, so I don't think it was a bad call. Someone was even suggesting soap, so I don't know. And the bleeding wasn't like profusely bleeding, like some people were reporting that they cut the apparently it's called the quick of the bird's foot, and it started bleeding profusely, so uh, they they panicked, and some applied cornstarch, and it stopped. But the bleeding stopped right away. Like, I really don't think it was that serious. At least I hope it wasn't. Really not in the best of moods, I'm sorry. I didn't check the reactions, if any, on the video that I posted with the story. I reckon the audio was a bit better, but I think that the story wasn't, so yeah. It's whatever, really, it's whatever. I'm just not feeling very well in general, like, mentally. Because the weather is changing and it's getting warmer, and yeah, I always feel worse in the summer. I'm unfortunately one of those people who get the extra depression when it's sunny and warm. So yeah, not good. Not good. But anyway, I actually found a story. Or rather, I went looking for stories and found a PDF that had a Native American story. The one that I'd already read in passage and also heard in documentaries about the theft of fire. One of the versions of the theft of fire, which is a common story in mythologies. Several mythologies. I'm not sure about the Christian mythology about fire, but this one, it was Coyote who stole the fire. Usually with the theft of fire, in case you don't know, because this is one of my special interests, the theft of fire is a common thing in many cultures around the world, right? So in Greek mythology, for example, we have Prometheus, who was famous for stealing fire, and fire was a Titan god, and stole the fire and gave it to humans, and then was punished for it. In other cultures, sometimes there isn't so much a story about fire being stolen by a trickster figure, because usually the thief is a trickster figure. Like the Coyote, and Prometheus was kind of a trickster, I suppose. Not exactly like a coyote and other animals. Like I saw that there's one version about a possum doing it, a dog, buzzard. There were two where it was a crow stole the fire, and obviously if you watched Moana, it was in the Polynesian mythology. It was Maui, the demigod, stole the fire. And Maui is also a trickster character. Usually it is a trickster character, like one who does not abide by the rules and, you know, just does whatever they like. And fire in mythology and stuff, and even, well, I suppose in general, fire represents knowledge, right? Because fire was, I think, or rather I consider it to be the first technological revolution. Like when humans became aware of ways of producing fire whenever they wanted. They were able to ward off predators and survive harsh climates and stuff like that. And also, it allowed for them to be vigilant overnight because they had a source of light, and nightlife became a thing, like stories around the fire, that kind of stuff. So fire really must have played a role in language and the development of language as well, because, and also the passing of knowledge. That's probably why it's associated with knowledge, because stories that taught the younger generations were told around the fire. So fire must be associated with knowledge for that reason. I'm just saying this. I don't remember if I read this somewhere or what. I'm just saying what makes sense to me at the moment. But yeah, I need to pause this and block my ears because I'm not feeling well. This isn't. I'm back. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Nothing happened I was able to avoid. Yeah. The living conditions are not ideal. Like mental health wise. Not that there's discomfort or dirt or anything like that. Like, yes, the house is not insulated. It's very hot in the summer and very cold in the winter, but I don't consider that awful. But yeah, I wish, but that's not an option. Yeah, I was talking about the myth of the theft of fire, and in some cultures the fire was not stolen from the gods. Instead, it's a deity of its own. But oh gosh, it's a deity of its own. Like, for example, in Ainu culture, fire is very important, and the earth, like the fire pit inside the houses, is very important because it represents the goddess of fire, the fire Kamui, because everything has Kamui. It's a bit like Native American. There's small spirit and big spirit. It's animism, basically. Everything has spirit. But in the case of fire, it's a big spirit. And yeah, the stories were told around the fire, and the compilation of stories is even called Stories Told Around the Fire. Lupata de Noe Pekere, I think it's called. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember. Sorry. Yeah, my mind's not working very well. I didn't really do much regarding the crafts. I want to make a pouch, another one, but I may do that after I finish the top that I'm making for my mom, since I'm sticking, and clearly that takes a long time to make. And I'm at that phase where I'm like, yeah, what if she doesn't like it? I will be kind of crushed. I won't lie, I will be kind of crushed. But yeah. I also made this. It's like a countryside scene while I was here trying to calm down. It's inspired by something I saw on Google. I didn't come up with it on my own. Yeah, that's what I was doing. And before I tell the story of the coyote, we should do the the breathing exercise. Maybe I should have done that while I waited. Yeah. Here's a mess. When is it not a mess? But let's see. Let's do 4, 7, 8. Yeah.
Relax and get comfortable. Focus on your breathing. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Breathe in. breathe out. Well done.
There you go. Putting it back in the bag. Right. I'm not going to drag this out for too long. I hope. Let's see. Let's see. Did it stop? No, it did not. Good. Okay. So I am going to read this verbatim because I think this belongs to some sort of program for some school. Therefore, it shouldn't have copyrights attached to it. Yeah, I am always concerned about that, although folktales and stuff like that don't and cannot be copyrighted for the reason of being folktales and therefore belonging to the people. But this is one of the stories of the theft of fire, and it belongs to the Native American people of the plains. A bit of context, that would be Northwest Pacific, I think. Let me check. Yep, I was correct. I did not misremember that. So, I will be reading this kind of verbatim. I may rephrase some things. Just because. So, this is the story of when Coyote stole fire and gave it to humans. So, a long time ago, when the earth was still forming, and humans had just arrived on the planet, had just been born. Some days, humans were the happiest creatures of all. And those were the days when spring brushed across the willow tails, and when children ripened with the blueberries in the sun of summer, and when the golden rod bloomed in the autumn haze. But the mists of autumn evenings grew more chill, and the sunstroke grew shorter. Then humans saw winter moving near and became fearful and unhappy. Humans were afraid for their children and for the elderly, who had in their brains the sacred tales of the tribes. Many of those, young and old, would die in the long ice-bitten months of the winter. And Coyote, like the rest of the people, had no need for fire. These people were the godly people. So, Coyote seldom concerned themselves with it, until one spring day, when Coyote was passing by a human village. There the women were singing a song of mourning for the babies and the old ones who had died in the winter. Their voices moaned like the west wind through a buffalo skull, prickling the hairs of Coyote's neck. "Feel how the sun is now warm on our backs," one of the men was saying. "Feel how it warms the earth and makes these stones hot to the touch. If only we could have had a small piece of the sun in our teepees during the winter." Coyote, overhearing this, felt sorry for the humans. Coyote also felt that there was something that could be done to help humans. Coyote knew of a faraway mountain top where the fire beings lived. These beings kept fire to themselves, guarding it carefully for fear that humans might somehow acquire it and become as strong as they were. Coyote saw that they could do a good turn for humans at the expense of the selfish fire beings. So Coyote went to the mountain of the fire beings and crept to its top to watch the way that the beings guarded their fire. As Coyote came near, the beings leaped to their feet and gazed searchingly round the camp. Their eyes glinted like bloodstones, and their hands were clawed like the talons of the great black vulture. "What's that? What's that I hear?" hissed one of the beings. "A thief, skulking in the bushes," screeched another. A third looked more closely and saw Coyote. But Coyote had gone to the mountain top on all fours, so the being thought they saw only an ordinary coyote slinking among the trees. "It is no one, it is nothing," the being cried, and the other two looked over where that being pointed, and also saw only a grey coyote. They sat down again by their fire and paid Coyote no more attention. So Coyote watched all day and night as the fire beings gathered their fire. Coyote saw how they fed it pine cones and dry branches from the sycamore trees. Coyote saw how they stamped furiously on runaway rivulets of flame that sometimes nibbled outwards on edges of dry grass. Coyote saw how at night the beings took turns to sit by the fire. They would sleep while one was on guard, and at certain times the beings by the fire would get up and go into their teepee, and another would come out to sit by the fire. Coyote saw that the beings were always jealously watchful of their fire, except during one part of the day. That was in the earliest morning, when the first winds of dawn arose on the mountains. Then the being by the fire would hurry, shivering, into the teepee, calling, "Sister, sister, go out and watch the fire." But the next being would always be slow to go out for her turn, her head spinning with sleep and thin dreams of dawn. Coyote, seeing all this, went down the mountain and spoke to some of their friends among the godly people. Coyote told them of hairless men fearing the cold and death of winter. And Coyote told them of the fire beings and the warmth and brightness of the flame. They all agreed that humans should have fire, and they all promised to help Coyote's undertaking. Then Coyote sped again to the mountain top. Again the fire beings leaped up when Coyote came close, and one cried out, "What is that? A thief! A thief!" But again The others looked closely, and saw only a grey hunting among the bushes. So they sat down again and paid Coyote no more attention. Coyote waited through the day and watched as night fell, and two of the beings went off to the teepee to sleep. Coyote watched as they changed over at certain times all night long until at last the dawn winds rose. Then the being on guard called, "Sister, sister, get up and watch the fire." And the being, whose turn it was, climbed slow and sleepy from a bed, saying, "Yes, yes, I am coming. Do not shout so." But before she could come out of the teepee, Coyote lunged from the bushes, snatched up a glowing portion of fire, and sprang away down the mountainside. Screaming, the fire beings flew after him. Swift as Coyote ran, they caught up with Coyote, and one of them reached out a clutching hand. A finger's touch only the tip of the tail, but the touch was enough to turn the hairs white, and Coyote tail tips are white still. Coyote shouted and flung the fire away from them. But the others of the godly people had gathered at the mountain's foot in case they were needed. Squirrel saw the fire falling and caught it, putting it on her back and fleeing away through the treetops. The fire scorched a back so painfully that her tail curled up and back, as squirrels' tails still do today. The fire beings then pursued Squirrel and threw the fire to Chipmunk. Chattering with fear, Chipmunk stood still as if rooted until the beings were almost upon her. Then, as she turned to run, the being clawed at her, tearing down the length of her back, and leaving three stripes that are to be seen on chipmunks' backs even today. Chipmunk threw the fire to Frog, and the beings turned towards him. One of the beings grasped his tail, but Frog gave a mighty leap and tore himself free, leaving his tail behind in the being's hand, which is why frogs have had no tails ever since. As the beings came to him again, Frog flung the fire on the wood, and wood swallowed it. The fire beings gathered round, but they did not know how to get the fire out of wood. They promised it gifts, sang to it, and shouted at it. They twisted it and struck it, and tore it with their knives. But wood did not give up the fire. In the end, defeated, the beings went back to their mountain top and left the godly people alone. But Coyote knew how to get fire out of wood, and so Coyote went to the village of the humans and showed them how. Coyote showed them the trick of rubbing two dry sticks together, the trick of spinning a sharpened stick in a hole made in another piece of wood. So humans were from then on warm and safe through the killing cold of winter. The end. I love this. I love these stories. I've read a different version. This one was gendered. The one I read was not. I tried to keep it genderless because most stories are genderless, but it's fine. I like this one, and like I said, there are many different versions of what trickster, animal, or deity, or godly being, in this case, people was capitalized, so I added godly people just to make that clear. I'm sorry about stammering. I know that I also did it when I was reading the story that I wrote yesterday. And yeah, that's partly because I stammer a bit, and also because I kept being interrupted, and I was trying to read as fast as I could. And there were some mistakes in the file, and I just couldn't stop and go fix them and re-record it, because that was the third time I tried recording that. So yeah. But it's interesting that so many cultures have like stories of trickster beings, normally animals, stealing fire. Like the Pacific Northwest. Uh, in here it says First Nations, but Native American, like from the United States. Like First Nations is usually what people call native people from the land that is now known as Canada. In the United States, it's Native American. I think First Nations is a bit more accurate, because from what I read, a lot of native people from the United States don't consider themselves like American, though of course they want the citizenship and they want the benefits and all the things to avoid discrimination, as one does. But people who are still connected with their tribes and their origins don't really want to be considered like American, because that's a white thing, that's a colonizer thing. So the Pacific Northwest peoples, there's the coyote version, there's the beaver version, and there's the dog version. In Algonquin myth, it was rabbit. Cherokee, it was possum and buzzard. There's a Mexican one where it was a possum. There's another one where it was rabbits. At the Ojibwe people, it was Nanabozo, who was a trickster creature, who was a shapeshifter. God damn it. A spirit, a shapeshifter spirit. Also known as Nanabush and stuff. I think it was Nanabozo who was called was a shapeshifter. Let me check. Yeah, it just says that it was a trickster character, of course. Yeah, it was a shapeshifter. In some, though, it was crow. Yeah. More birds. Yeah. Yeah. There's more, sure. I just looking at the quick overview. And yeah, someone was commenting about languages. And languages that are disappearing. And I really can't really think about that without getting sad. And yeah, I know that the reason why languages die, and languages die every day. Once the last native speaker of a language dies, the language dies with them. And that's the truth. And with that language dies a unique worldview. Because the language you speak affects the way you perceive the world. I don't want to let this get to 50 minutes, but I just want to finish with this because I kind of wanted to mention it. The languages that you speak, they affect the way that you perceive the world. It's the Sapir-Whorf theory. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. The name. Sapir-Whorf. I think it's Sapir-Whorf, yeah. And the theory proposes that the language that you speak influences the way you perceive the world. Right? Let's say, for example, in languages where, for example, there are many kinds of snow. Snow takes many forms. There are many words for snow. Whereas in places where snow is rare or non-existent, there is either no word or just the one word, and it's usually a word that was borrowed from some other language. And yeah, languages die because of colonizations, and there's no two ways about it. That's the reason why languages die. Whether you like it or not, it is what it is. I mean, it makes me sad, but I know that it is what it is. There's nothing to be done now. But the fact remains that whenever a language dies, a unique worldview dies with it. And it's true that the languages that you speak affect your perception of the world. For example, I remember one specific example of a teacher that I had, a German teacher, who was convinced that Pizza Hut was actually Pizza Hut, and thought that the logo was a hat and not a roof, which is what it is, because it's Pizza Hut, like a hut, like a cabin, a house. But Hut in Spanish, in German, means hat. So she looked at that and it looked like a hat because of the language that she spoke. And yeah, that's one way. There's another example that's very common. There's a people in Africa who only have one word for the color green and the color blue, because to them it's the same thing. They see blue and they see green and it's the same thing. They are able to tell that this color is different from this one, but there's only one word to describe both colors. So if you show them shades of green and blue side by side, they'll be like, this is name. Even if there's like striking blue and striking green side by side, it's the same. And that's the way language affects your perception of the world. I'd say look it up, because it's much too complex, and I might eventually start writing some of these ideas in mini essays. Though there are probably countless documentaries on YouTube itself done by much more qualified people who will teach you the same things. The thing that I can do is put together a list of books from my degree and recommend them. Yeah, that's one thing I can do. But I'm sure that there are documentaries that would put this a lot better than I ever could, with all this stammering and ADHD and stuff. And yeah, but yeah, I'm feeling a bit better. And I managed to ramble for 50 minutes, and this is why it's good that I keep returning. It's like when you go to therapy and you're like, I don't want to go, but then if the therapist is good, you get out of there and are like, yeah, it was good that I came. Because it's good to just speak. And again, I know that Tommy would be like, yeah, you can speak to me, but, I'm saying this with all the love in the world. Not having anyone interrupt and just rambling to the void with a small audience, which is what I have here, and putting myself out there in the process, which was what I was told to do, is positive. So yeah, this has gone for long enough. Not as long as yesterday, but tomorrow I won't be here. So I hope that the rest of your Sunday goes well, and I hope that tomorrow goes well as well. I'll be around. I'll post something, some random thing. Fun. And yeah. That's it. That's all. That's enough. But I'll be back. That's a threat. Bye bye.